The old hospital hallways were quiet at night. That's when Rosa liked to work best. The day shift was all noise and rush. Doctors hurrying, visitors asking questions, cleaners like her trying to stay out of the way. But after midnight, when most patients were sleeping, Rosa could take her time. She moved her mop across the shiny floor of the East Wing, humming softly to herself. At 42, Rosa had the kind of face that showed she'd lived through hard times but hadn't let them make her hard. Her hands were rough from years of cleaning, but they moved with grace as she worked. She wore her dark hair pulled back in a simple bun, a few gray strands escaping around her temples. Nothing about her appearance suggested anything special or out of the ordinary. Tonight, Rosa felt a little lighter than usual. Her youngest sister, Lucia, had gotten a letter saying she might qualify for a small college scholarship. It wasn't enough to cover everything, not by a long shot, but it was hope. And hope was something Rosa had learned to treasure. Maybe, she whispered to herself as she dipped her mop in the bucket, maybe she won't have to clean floors her whole life. Rosa had come to America with her parents and 4 younger siblings when she was just 16. Her father had been a music teacher back home, playing violin for the city orchestra on weekends. He'd taught Rosa to sing almost before she could talk, guiding her through scales and Italian arias that she didn't understand but could feel in her heart. "You have a gift," he used to tell her, his eyes bright with pride. A voice that could fill concert halls someday. But 3 years after they arrived in America, her father's heart gave out. Her mother, broken by grief and the strain of working 2 jobs, fell sick soon after. Just like that, Rosa became the head of the family at 19. Her dreams of music, school swept away like dust. She switched to the women's bathroom, pushing her cart inside. The night lights cast a soft glow over the white tile. Rosa checked that she was alone, then did what she always did when no one was around. She began to sing. It started as a soft hum that grew into words, her voice rising and falling with the gentle melody of an old aria her father had taught her. "Oh mio babino caro, oh my dear papa," a song that always made her feel close to him again. Her voice echoed slightly against the bathroom walls, pure and clear and full of feeling. Rosa didn't know that Tanya, one of the night nurses, had forgotten her phone in the bathroom. She didn't hear the door open a crack, didn't see Tanya's eyes widen in surprise, didn't notice the phone being held up to record the mysterious, beautiful voice coming from the hospital bathroom. Rosa finished the song, the last note hanging in the air before fading away. She smiled to herself, picked up her mop, and went back to work. Who was that singing in the bathroom last night? The question buzzed around the hospital the next day. Rosa, head down as she cleaned the cafeteria floor during her day shift, pretended not to hear. "It's on Facebook already," someone said. "Tanya posted it. They're calling her the Midnight Songbird because you can't see who it is in the video, just hear the voice." Rosa's stomach tightened. She didn't want attention. She didn't want people looking at her, asking questions. Singing was private, something she did for herself, for the memory of her father. By the end of the week, the video had spread beyond the hospital. Local news had picked it up as a feel-good story. Mystery singer brings opera to hospital halls. Rosa watched with growing horror as her private moment became public entertainment. "It's you, isn't it?" Tanya cornered her in the supply closet on Friday. "You're the Midnight Songbird." Rosa shook her head, trying to deny it, but her eyes gave her away. "I knew it." Tanya clapped her hands. "Why didn't you say something? You could be famous. You should be on TV or something, not cleaning toilets." "Please," Rosa whispered, "don't tell anyone. I just want to do my job." But it was too late. The hospital was small, and word spread fast. By Monday, everyone knew that quiet Rosa, the cleaning lady who barely spoke above a whisper, was the voice in the video. That same day, her supervisor called her into the office. Rosa's heart pounded as she sat down. Sure, she was about to be fired for singing on the job. "There's a man on the phone," her supervisor said, looking confused. "Says he's a producer for Morning Spotlight. That TV show? He wants to talk to you." Rosa shook her head quickly. "No, thank you. I don't want to talk to TV people. He says they'll pay you to come on the show. $500 just to sing one song." Rosa froze. $500. That was almost 2 weeks' pay. Money that could help with Lucia's college books or the leaky roof in their small house. With trembling fingers, she took the phone. The producer's voice was smooth and excited. "Ms. Diaz, what a pleasure. We've all been completely blown away by your voice. Our host Damon Pierce personally requested to have you on the show." "I'm not a performer," Rosa said quietly. "I just clean." "That's exactly what makes this so special," the man gushed. "A hidden talent, an ordinary person with an extraordinary gift. Our viewers will eat it up. And like I told your supervisor, we'll pay you $500 for a 3-minute song." Rosa thought of Lucia's hopeful face when she'd shown her the scholarship letter. "What would I have to do?" "Just come to the studio, tell your story, and sing the same song from the video. Simple. We'll send a car for you next Thursday. Wear something nice. You'll be on camera." After hanging up, Rosa sat motionless, her mind racing. Part of her wanted to run away, to hide from the cameras and the attention, but another part remembered her father saying, "Your voice is a gift. Gifts are meant to be shared." And then there was the money. $500 wouldn't change their lives, but it would help. Maybe it was time to step out of the shadows. Just this once. When Rosa told her family that night, her siblings erupted with excitement. "My sister's going to be on TV," 12-year-old Lucia squealed, dancing around their small living room. "Will you wear a fancy dress?" asked Elena, who at 16 was already prettier than Rosa had ever been. Only her mother looked worried, her weathered face creased with concern. "Be careful, mija," she said in Spanish. "Those TV people, they're not always kind." "It's just one time, Mama," Rosa assured her. "I sing, they pay me, and then everything goes back to normal." But as the days passed, Rosa's nervousness grew. She hadn't performed in front of people since high school choir. What if her voice shook? What if she forgot the words? What if everyone laughed at her? The night before the show, she couldn't sleep. She stood in front of the small mirror in her bedroom, looking at the best outfit she owned, a simple blue dress she'd worn to her cousin's wedding 3 years ago. It wasn't fancy or new, but it was clean and modest. "You can do this," she told her reflection, trying to believe it. Just one song, for Lucia, for Papa. Thursday morning arrived with gray skies and a light rain. As promised, a sleek black car pulled up outside their house, the nicest car that had ever parked on their street. Neighbors peeked through curtains, as Rosa, clutching her mother's old handbag, hurried through the drizzle to the waiting car. The driver barely spoke as they made their way downtown to the TV studio. Rosa stared out the window, her stomach in knots, wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. The studio was a maze of bright lights, busy people with headsets, and long cables snaking across the floor. A young woman with a clipboard rushed up as soon as Rosa arrived. "Ms. Diaz, finally. We're on a tight schedule. Come with me for makeup, then we'll get you mic'd up." Before Rosa could protest, she was whisked away to a small room where another woman dabbed powder on her face and tried to fix her hair. "We go live in 20 minutes, the clipboard woman announced, reappearing to hustle Rosa to the side of the bright stage. Through a gap in the curtains, Rosa could see a studio audience filling rows of seats. Her legs felt weak. This wasn't just being recorded, it was happening live in front of real people. And then she saw him, Damon Pierce, the host of Morning Spotlight. He was pacing the stage talking to a producer. Taller than he looked on TV, with perfect white teeth and expertly styled hair, he radiated confidence. As Rosa watched, he laughed at something, but his eyes stayed cold. "That's your cue to wait. Here," the clipboard woman instructed. "When Damon introduces you, just walk out, take a seat, and follow his lead." Left alone, Rosa closed her eyes and whispered a quick prayer. "Papa, help me be brave." From the stage, she heard Damon's voice boom out as the show began. "Good morning, America. Have we got a treat for you today?" Rosa's heart pounded as she watched Damon Pierce work the audience. The studio lights were much brighter than she'd expected, making her squint from her position backstage. She wiped her sweaty palms on her blue dress and tried to remember how to breathe normally. "Now, folks," Damon was saying, his voice smooth as butter, "we've got a very special guest today. Someone you might call an undiscovered talent. He winked at the camera and the audience chuckled. You've probably seen the viral video of the Midnight Songbird, a cleaning lady caught singing opera in a hospital bathroom. The screen behind him lit up with the blurry video taken in the hospital bathroom. Rosa cringed as she heard her own voice echo through the studio speakers. It sounded strange, disconnected from her body, as if it belonged to someone else. Pretty impressive, for someone who pushes a mop for a living, right? Damon said with a smirk. More laughter from the audience. Well, we tracked down this mysterious cleaning woman and she's here with us today. The clipboard woman gave Rosa a little push. That's your cue. Go, go. Rosa's legs felt like they were made of cement as she forced herself to walk onto the stage. The lights blinded her and the audience seemed to stretch out forever. She'd never seen so many people staring at her at once. Here she is, ladies and gentlemen, Damon announced, gesturing toward Rosa with a sweep of his arm. The viral sensation herself, Rosa Diaz. The audience applauded politely, but Rosa could feel their curiosity, their assessment. She was painfully aware of her simple blue dress, now looking faded under the harsh lights, and her sensible shoes, that she'd polished desperately the night before. Damon guided her to a chair across from his. Have a seat, Rosa. Make yourself comfortable if you can. He laughed, and some of the audience joined in. I bet this chair is nicer than what you're used to sitting on during your lunch breaks. Rosa sat down stiffly, trying to smile. Her English wasn't perfect. She spoke it well enough for her job, for shopping, for helping her siblings with homework, but not for television. Not for clever comebacks to a man who was clearly making fun of her. So, Rosa, Damon leaned forward, flashing his perfect teeth. Tell us about yourself. How does a cleaning lady end up singing Italian opera in a hospital bathroom at midnight? Rosa cleared her throat. My father, she said softly, her accent thicker than usual because of her nerves. He taught me. Before we came to America, he was a music teacher. A music teacher? Damon raised his eyebrows dramatically. And yet his daughter ended up with a mop instead of a microphone. Interesting career path. The audience laughed again, and Rosa felt her cheeks burn. She wished she could disappear, melt into the floor like the soap suds she washed away every day. My father died, she said, her voice barely audible. I had to take care of my family. For a brief moment, Damon's expression softened, but he quickly recovered his showman's smile. Well, that's very touching indeed. He turned to the audience. Isn't that touching, folks? The sacrifices we make for family. The audience murmured sympathetically, but Damon was already moving on. Now, Rosa, I have to ask, do you always sing while you're cleaning? Do the toilets get an aria? Maybe a little serenade for the sinks? He mimed scrubbing a toilet while humming dramatically. More laughter. Rosa stared at her hands in her lap. Sometimes, she admitted, when nobody is around. It helps the time pass. I bet it does. Damon stood up suddenly. Well, folks. What do you say? Should we see if Rosa can sing as well in front of an audience as she does for the bathroom fixtures? The audience cheered and clapped. This was what they'd been waiting for. Rosa felt panic rising in her throat. I don't know if I... Get nonsense! Damon cut her off, taking her arm and pulling her to her feet. You're here, we're paying you. Let's hear what you've got. He guided her to the center of the stage where a microphone stand waited. The lights seemed to grow even brighter, beating down on her like a physical weight. Now, Damon said, addressing both Rosa and the audience, we've prepared the backing track for O Mio Babino Caro, the same song from the viral video. Let's see if lightning can strike twice, shall we? He stepped back, a small smirk playing on his lips. Rosa could tell he didn't expect much. Maybe he thought the video had been enhanced somehow, or that she'd freeze under pressure. Maybe that's what he wanted, for her to fail, to provide his audience with a good laugh at the expense of the cleaning lady who dared to dream. The familiar opening notes of the aria began to play. Rosa closed her eyes, trying to block out the audience, the cameras, Damon's smug face. But her mind was racing too fast, her heart beating too hard. The first note caught in her throat, coming out weak and shaky. She heard someone in the audience whisper, and her eyes flew open in panic. Damon was watching her with barely concealed amusement. The producer stood off stage looking nervous. Rosa was about to apologize, to run off the stage and back to the safety of her mops and buckets, when she noticed something on the screen behind her. The producers had put up a photo they'd found, her father standing in front of his small orchestra back home, violin in hand, smiling proudly. Papa. The sight of him hit her like a physical blow. How many times had he told her, "When you sing like it's the last song you'll ever share with the world"? Rosa took a deep breath and looked directly at her father's image as the music began again. This time, when she opened her mouth, she wasn't in a television studio anymore. She was back in their tiny kitchen, her father guiding her through the notes, her mother smiling as she cooked dinner, her siblings playing at her feet. The first notes came out pure and clear, surprising even herself. Rosa's voice filled the studio, soaring over the backing track with an emotion that couldn't be taught or rehearsed. Years of loss and sacrifice, of dreams deferred, and midnight songs sung only for herself, poured out through the Italian lyrics she'd memorized as a child. The audience grew completely still. The cameramen, who'd been shifting positions restlessly, froze in place. Even the stagehands stopped what they were doing, standing motionless in the wings, and Damon Pierce, who'd been preparing his next witty remark, felt the words die in his throat. The smirk slid from his face, replaced by an expression of genuine astonishment. He'd expected a novelty act, something to fill a slow news day. What he was hearing instead was world-class talent. Rosa didn't notice any of this. Her eyes were closed again, but not from fear. She was lost in the music, in memories, in the pure joy of finally letting her voice soar the way her father had always believed it could. When she reached the climactic high note, she held it effortlessly, the sound ringing clear as crystal through the silent studio. As the final notes of the aria faded away, Rosa opened her eyes. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. The silence was absolute. Then, from somewhere in the back, a single person began to clap. Another joined in, and another, until the entire audience was on their feet, applauding wildly. Some were wiping away tears. A woman in the front row was openly sobbing. Rosa stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. She looked over at Damon, who hadn't moved from his spot at the edge of the stage. His face had drained of color, his practiced smile nowhere to be seen. For perhaps the first time in his career, Damon Pierce was completely speechless. The applause continued, showing no signs of stopping. The producer was frantically signaling to Damon, who finally seemed to snap out of his trance. He walked slowly back to center stage, standing beside Rosa. He started to speak, then stopped, cleared his throat, and tried again. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Rosa Diaz." This triggered another wave of applause, even louder than before. Rosa felt tears welling in her eyes. All those years of singing alone in empty rooms, of putting her dreams aside. And now, this moment, this incredible, unexpected moment. The producer was gesturing urgently, pointing at his watch. They needed to go to commercial. Damon nodded and turned to Rosa. "We'll be right back with more from our extraordinary guest, Rosa Diaz," he managed to say before the cameras cut away. As soon as they were off the air, chaos erupted in the studio. People were rushing toward the stage, crew members were talking excitedly. The producer was on his phone. Rosa stood in the middle of it all, feeling strangely calm now. Whatever happened next, she had honored her father's memory. She had shared her gift. For the first time in years, she felt like herself again. Not just a cleaning woman, not just a provider for her family, but Rosa, the girl with the voice that could stop time. Damon approached her slowly, his TV persona completely gone. He looked younger somehow, more human, without the polished smile and rehearsed charm. "Rosa," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology." "Rosa," Damon said quietly, "I owe you an apology." Rosa didn't know how to respond. Just minutes ago, this man had been making fun of her, treating her like some kind of joke. Now he was looking at her with something that seemed like respect, maybe even awe. "I've been doing this show for 8 years," he continued, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up for the first time. "I've interviewed movie stars, politicians, famous singers, but I've never heard anything like what you just did." Before Rosa could answer, the producer rushed over, his face flushed with excitement. "2 minutes until we're back on air," he announced, "and the phones are going crazy. Everyone wants to know who she is, where they can hear more." He turned to Rosa with new interest, as if seeing her for the first time. "Do you have a manager? Any recordings?" Rosa shook her head, feeling overwhelmed. "No, I just clean. At the hospital." The producer and Damon exchanged looks. "Not anymore, you don't," the producer said. "We're going to 30 seconds, someone called out. Everyone scrambled back to their positions. Rosa found herself being guided back to her chair, a makeup person quickly dabbing powder on her forehead, someone else adjusting her microphone. "Just be yourself," Damon whispered as the countdown began. "No more jokes, I promise." The red light on the camera blinked on. They were live again. "Welcome back to Morning Spotlight," Damon said, his voice noticeably softer than before. "If you're just joining us, you missed something truly extraordinary. Our guest, Rosa Diaz, has just given what I can only describe as one of the most moving performances I've ever witnessed in this studio." The audience applauded again. Rosa noticed that the woman in the front row was still wiping away tears. "Rosa," Damon turned to her, all traces of his earlier mockery gone. "I think everyone here wants to know, how did you develop such an incredible voice without formal training?" Rosa took a deep breath. The fear that had nearly choked her earlier was fading. Something about having shared her music, having finally been heard, made her feel stronger. "My father was my teacher," she said, her voice steadier now. "In our country, he played violin in the orchestra and taught music to children. Every day after school he would teach me. He said I had a gift." "He was right," Damon said simply. "When we came to America, he dreamed I would go to music school." Rosa's eyes drifted to the photo of her father that was still displayed on the screen. "But then he got sick. His heart. After he died, my mother couldn't work enough to support all of us." Rosa looked down at her hands, workers' hands with short nails and dry skin from years of cleaning chemicals. "I was the oldest, I had to help, so I took any job I could find." A hush had fallen over the studio. Even the crew members had stopped moving around. "That was 23 years ago," Rosa continued. "My mother got sick too. My brothers and sisters were young. There was no time for singing lessons or music school. But sometimes when I'm alone, I still sing. For my father. For myself." Damon was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its professional polish. "Why cleaning? All these years with a voice like that, why stay at the hospital?" Rosa gave a small shrug. "It's honest work. My family needed money, not dreams." Someone in the audience let out a soft "oh" at that, and Rosa saw several people dabbing at their eyes. "My youngest sister, Lucia. She's smart," Rosa continued, a hint of pride creeping into her voice. "She might go to college soon. That's why I agreed to come on your show. For the money. To help her." Damon looked genuinely stricken. Rosa realized he was thinking about how he'd treated her earlier. The jokes about cleaning toilets, the condescending tone. $500, he said, almost to himself. Then he turned to face the camera directly. "Well, I think we can do a little better than that. In fact, I'm personally doubling the payment to Ms. Diaz right now." He pulled out his wallet and took out his own checkbook. The audience burst into applause again. The producer, sensing good television, hurried on stage with a pen. "Damon Pierce, ladies and gentlemen, always full of surprises." But Rosa wasn't comfortable with this sudden charity. "Please," she said, putting her hand on Damon's arm to stop him. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do," he insisted, already writing the check. "And it's not nearly enough." He handed her the check for $1,000. Rosa stared at it, hardly believing what she was seeing. $1,000 was more than a month's salary for her. "Thank you," she whispered, carefully folding the check and tucking it into her small handbag. "Don't thank me," Damon said, and Rosa was surprised to see that his eyes looked wet. "I was horrible to you. I assumed because you clean floors you couldn't possibly have anything valuable to offer. I was wrong. So wrong." The studio was completely silent now. This wasn't the Damon Pierce that regular viewers knew, the slick, sometimes cruel host who built his reputation on embarrassing guests for laughs. Damon seemed to realize that he'd gone off script. He cleared his throat and turned back to the camera. "We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, Rosa has agreed to sing one more song for us. You won't want to miss it." As soon as the cameras were off again, the studio erupted with activity. The producer rushed over, looking both shocked and thrilled. "What was that?" he demanded. "You've never given away your own money on air before." Damon ignored him, turning to Rosa instead. "Would you really be willing to sing again? Maybe something different this time? Anything you want." Rosa nodded, feeling a strange mix of emotions. Just this morning she'd been scrubbing floors, invisible to the world. Now people were looking at her, really seeing her, for the first time in years. "I know another song," she said. "My father's favorite." While the crew prepared for the next segment, a young woman approached Rosa with a phone. "Excuse me, Miss Diaz? There's someone on the line for you. Says he's the dean of the music department at City College." Rosa took the phone, confused. "Hello, Ms. Diaz," came an enthusiastic voice. "My name is Dr. Chen. I just watched your performance live on Morning Spotlight. I've been teaching vocal performance for 30 years, and what I just heard was exceptional. Would you be interested in coming to talk about scholarship opportunities for continuing education?" Rosa nearly dropped the phone. "Scholarship? For me, but I'm 42 years old." "Age is just a number," Dr. Chen replied. "Talent like yours deserves to be nurtured no matter when we discover it." By the time Rosa handed back the phone, her hands were shaking again. Not from fear this time, but from a feeling she hadn't experienced in decades. Hope. "Good news?" Damon asked, noticing her expression. "I don't know yet," Rosa said honestly. "It feels like a dream." "It's not," he assured her. "This is real, Rosa. Your life is about to change." The floor director called out the 1-minute warning. Crew members took their positions. Rosa was guided to the center of the stage again, where the microphone waited. As the seconds ticked down, Rosa closed her eyes and thought about the strange path that had led her here. One moment of singing in an empty bathroom, one person with a phone, one video that people happened to share, all those years of cleaning in silence, and now this. The red light blinked on. The backing track began. Ave Maria this time, her father's favorite. Rosa took a deep breath and began to sing. This time she wasn't singing from memory or practice. She was singing from her life. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every small joy and deep sorrow of the past 23 years poured into each note. She sang for her father, who never got to see her on a real stage. For her mother, who worked until her hands were as rough as Rosa's own. For her siblings, who grew up without enough but never complained. For Lucia and her dreams of college. And for the first time in decades, Rosa sang for herself too. The song built to its climax, Rosa's voice soaring to heights that even she hadn't known she could reach. When the final note faded away, the silence lasted only a heartbeat before the audience rose as one, the applause thundering through the studio. Damon walked slowly to center stage, clapping along with the audience. When he reached Rosa, he surprised everyone, including himself, by taking both her hands in his. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice cracking with genuine emotion. "Rosa Diaz. Remember that name?" As the show cut to commercial for the last time, Rosa stood in the spotlight, tears streaming down her cheeks. 23 years of being invisible, and now everyone could see her. 23 years of silence, and now everyone could hear her. The cleaning lady had found her voice again. The world outside the TV studio seemed strangely normal as Rosa stepped onto the sidewalk. Cars rushed by. People hurried past with coffee, cups in hand, The afternoon sun broke through clouds, all exactly as it had been before her life turned upside down. "Rosa, wait up!" She turned to see Damon jogging toward her, his suit jacket slung over one shoulder. Without the bright studio lights and makeup, he looked older, more real somehow. "You weren't going to leave without saying goodbye, were you?" he asked, slightly out of breath. Rosa clutched her purse with the $1,000 check inside. "Thank you for the money," she said. "It will help my sister." Damon shook his head. "Stop thanking me. That check is nothing compared to what your voice is worth." He hesitated, then added, "Look, my producer is already getting calls. Record labels, agents, other TV shows. They all want to talk to you." Rosa felt a flutter of panic. This was happening too fast. Just hours ago, she'd been mopping floors, invisible to the world. Now people wanted things from her, expected things. "I have to go back to work tomorrow," she said. "My shift starts at 6. Damon stared at her in disbelief. "Work? You mean cleaning?" "Rosa, you don't have to do that anymore." "What else would I do?" she asked simply. "My family still needs to eat. Bills still need to be paid, but your voice," Damon began. "My voice won't pay the rent tomorrow," Rosa said gently. "Maybe someday, but not tomorrow." Before Damon could argue further, a car horn honked. Rosa turned to see the hospital's head janitor, Grady, waving from his old pickup truck. "There's my ride," she said. "Grady is kind enough to take me home." Damon looked between Rosa and the beat-up truck, then pulled a business card from his pocket and pressed it into her hand. "Call me, okay? Before you make any decisions. Promise me." Rosa nodded and tucked the card into her purse. "Goodbye, Mr. Pierce." "Damon," he corrected. "And this isn't goodbye. It's just the beginning." Rosa didn't know what to say to that, so she simply gave him a small smile and walked to Grady's truck. "Was that Damon Pierce talking to you?" Grady asked as she climbed in. "The TV guy?" "Yes." Rosa fastened her seatbelt. "He was different than I expected." "I recorded the show," Grady said, pulling into traffic. "My wife called me crying after your first song. Said it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever heard." He glanced at Rosa with new respect. "Why didn't you ever tell anyone you could sing like that?" Rosa looked out the window. Nobody ever asked. When they reached her neighborhood, Rosa saw that something unusual was happening. Cars lined both sides of her normally quiet street. People stood in small groups talking excitedly. "What's going on?" she wondered aloud. Grady slowed the truck. "Looks like you're famous now, Rosa." As they got closer to her small house, Rosa's heart sank. There were news vans, reporters with cameras, people holding up phones waiting. "Oh no," she whispered. "How did they find where I live?" Grady stopped, the truck a block away. "Want me to try to drive around back?" Rosa shook her head. "No, it's okay. My family is in there. I need to get to them." Taking a deep breath, she opened the door and stepped out. It took only seconds for someone to spot her. There she is. Rosa Diaz. Rosa had never been the center of attention in her life. Now, suddenly, strangers were rushing toward her, calling her name, asking questions all at once. "Rosa, how long have you been hiding your talent? Will you sign with a record label? Are you quitting your cleaning job? Can you sing something for us now?" She froze, overwhelmed by the noise, the cameras, the faces pressing close. Then the front door of her house opened, and her youngest, Sister Lucia, burst out, pushing through the crowd to reach her. "Rosa!" Lucia threw her arms around her. At 12 years old, she was still small enough for Rosa to hold tight. "Everyone at school saw you on TV. My teacher stopped class so we could all watch. You were amazing." The simple joy in her sister's voice gave Rosa courage. With Lucia tucked against her side, she faced the crowd. "Please," she said, raising her voice to be heard. "My family and I need some privacy. This has been a very surprising day for us, all." "Just one song," someone called out. "No," Rosa said firmly. "Not today. Today I am just a sister coming home to her family." Somehow her quiet dignity silenced the crowd better than anger would have. People stepped back, making a path to her door. Rosa walked through with her head high, Lucia still pressed against her side. Inside, their small living room was packed. Her mother sat in her favorite chair, looking bewildered by all the attention. Elena, her 16-year-old sister, was trying to serve coffee to neighbors who had come to congratulate the family. Her brothers, Miguel and Tomas, were arguing excitedly about which TV show would call next. When Rosa entered, everyone turned to her with wide eyes and wider smiles. "My daughter," her mother said in Spanish, opening her arms. "My beautiful, talented daughter." Rosa went to her knees beside her mother's chair, suddenly feeling like a child again. "Mama, I'm sorry about all this chaos." Her mother stroked her hair. "Don't be sorry. Your father is looking down from heaven today, so proud." The thought of her father brought tears to Rosa's eyes. "I sang his songs, Mama, the ones he taught me." "I know," her mother whispered. "I heard your voice, and I heard his heart in it." The small house buzzed with excitement as neighbors brought food, making an impromptu celebration. Rosa's phone, an old model she kept for emergencies, rang constantly with calls from reporters, radio stations, and people she'd never heard of claiming to be talent scouts. After an hour, she turned it off, exhausted by the attention. Elena found her hiding in the kitchen. "There's a man at the door," she said. "Says he's from City College. The music department?" Rosa remembered the phone call from the studio. "Dr. Chen?" "Yes, that's his name," Elena confirmed. "He says he just wants 5 minutes." Rosa smoothed her hair, still the simple bun she'd worn to the TV studio that morning. "Okay, tell him I'll be right there." Dr. Chen was a small man with kind eyes behind round glasses. He didn't try to come in, respecting her need for space on this chaotic day. "Ms. Diaz," he said, "I wanted to personally deliver this." He handed her an envelope with the college seal. "It's an official offer of a full scholarship to study vocal performance. Classes, books, everything covered." Rosa stared at the envelope. "Full scholarship? But why? I'm 42. I'm nobody." Dr. Chen smiled gently. "Age doesn't matter in music, and after what I heard today, you are definitely somebody. A somebody with extraordinary talent that deserves proper training." "I can't just go to school," Rosa protested. "I have responsibilities. Bills, my family." "The scholarship includes a living stipend," Dr. Chen added, "and we can arrange evening classes to work around your job if you insist on keeping it. Though between us, I think you'll be very busy with other opportunities soon." Rosa held the envelope against her chest. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it," Dr. Chen suggested. "That's all I ask. Your voice is a rare gift. Ms. Diaz, don't hide it away again." After Dr. Chen left, Rosa sat on the front steps of her house, watching as the crowd of reporters and curious onlookers gradually dispersed with the setting sun. The envelope from City College sat on her lap, still unopened. The door opened behind her. "Rosa." It was Miguel, her 15-year-old brother. "Are you okay?" She patted the step beside her. "Just thinking." He sat down, gangly teenage limbs folding, awkwardly. "About what?" "About how quickly life can change," she said. "This morning I was just Rosa the cleaning lady. Now you're Rosa the star," Miguel finished, bumping her shoulder with his. "We always knew you were special. Now everyone else knows too." Rosa smiled at him. "I'm still the same person, but your life doesn't have to be the same," Miguel said with the simple wisdom of youth. "That's a good thing, right?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed with a text. She'd turned it back on to check messages from her supervisor at the hospital. But this wasn't from work, it was from Damon Pierce. "Turn on Channel 5 News right now," it read. Miguel ran inside to switch on their small TV. The family gathered around as the evening news played a clip from that morning's show. Rosa singing, the audience rising to their feet, Damon's face transformed with emotion. The viral sensation known as the Midnight Songbird has been identified as Rosa Diaz, a cleaning worker at Mercy Hospital, the news anchor was saying. Her performance on Morning Spotlight today has already been viewed 8 million times online. Music industry experts are calling her untrained voice one in a million. The report cut to an interview with a famous opera singer. What makes Ms. Diaz special is not just the technical quality of her voice, which is extraordinary, the singer said, but the emotional truth in her performance. You cannot teach that. It comes from life, from the heart. Then, to Rosa's surprise, Damon appeared on screen, looking more serious than she'd ever seen him on his own show. I've been in television for 15 years, he told the reporter. I've interviewed celebrities, politicians, billionaires. But today I met someone truly remarkable, a woman whose spirit couldn't be broken by hardship, whose talent couldn't be diminished by years of being overlooked. Rosa Diaz reminded all of us, that extraordinary people are all around us, often invisible until we truly see them. Rosa felt tears sliding down her cheeks as the report ended. Wow, Elena whispered. Damon Pierce actually sounded like a decent human being. He is, Rosa said softly, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. Underneath all that TV polish, there's a real person in there. Later that night, after the neighbors had gone home and her siblings had finally gone to bed, Rosa sat at the kitchen table with her mother. The scholarship letter from City College lay open between them. What should I do, Mama? Rosa asked. Everything is happening so fast. Her mother took her hand, turning it palm up. She traced the calluses and rough patches from years of work with cleaning chemicals. Your father and I came to this country for a better life, she said. Not just for us, but for our children. For you. And I've tried to make sure the little ones have that chance, Rosa said. Yes, you have sacrificed everything for them. For me. Her mother's eyes were bright with tears. But maybe now it's your turn, Mihija. Maybe now is the time for Rosa to live her own dream. But what if it doesn't work out? What if this is all just a moment that passes? Her mother smiled. Then you will still have your family who loves you. You will still have your voice, and you will know that for once in your life, you tried to fly instead of just keeping others from falling. Rosa looked down at the scholarship letter, at the $1,000 check, at Damon's business card. After 23 years of putting one foot in front of the other, just trying to survive, she suddenly had choices. Possibilities. I'm scared, Mama, she admitted. Being scared means you're about to do something brave, her mother replied. Your father used to say that. Rosa nodded, remembering. She took a deep breath and picked up her phone to text Damon back. I'm ready to talk about what comes next, she wrote. Outside her window, the stars shone in a clear night sky. For the first time in decades, Rosa felt like she could reach them if she tried. 6 months could change everything, Rosa thought, as she stood backstage at the Morning Spotlight studio. 6 months ago, she'd been trembling here, dressed in her faded blue dress, terrified of the cameras and the audience and Damon Pierce's mocking smile. Today, she wore a simple but elegant navy dress that had been made just for her. Her hair was styled in soft waves rather than her old tight bun. She looked different, but the real change was inside, in the way she carried herself, in the quiet confidence that had replaced her lifelong habit of trying to be invisible. 2 minutes, Ms. Diaz, a production assistant said respectfully. Rosa nodded, taking a deep breath to calm the butterflies that still fluttered in her stomach before every performance. Some things hadn't changed. She still got nervous. But now she knew that nervousness was just part of caring deeply about her music. From the stage, she could hear Damon warming up the audience. His voice sounded different too, less slick, more genuine. That was another change these past 6 months had brought. Today we have a very special guest returning to our show, Damon was saying. Someone who changed not just her own life when she was last here, but changed mine as well. Changed this show. Maybe changed the way a lot of us think about the people we pass by every day without really seeing. The audience applauded, and Rosa could tell from their enthusiasm that they knew exactly who he was talking about. Her story had struck a chord with people. The humble cleaning lady with the voice of an angel. The woman who'd spent decades putting everyone else first. The overnight sensation who was actually 23 years in the making. Please welcome back to our stage the remarkable Rosa Diaz. Rosa walked out into the lights, smiling as the audience rose to their feet. The applause washed over her like a wave of warmth. She still wasn't entirely used to it, to being seen, to being celebrated. Part of her probably never would be. Damon met her center stage, taking both her hands in his. Gone was the slick TV host who had tried to humiliate her 6 months ago. In his place was a man who had become surprisingly a friend. "Rosa," he said, his voice full of genuine pleasure. "Welcome back." "Thank you, Damon," she replied, her accent still present but her English more confident now after months of classes and public speaking. They sat down in the familiar chairs, but this time Rosa didn't perch nervously on the edge. This time she belonged there, so Damon began. "Last time you were here, you came as a hospital cleaning worker who secretly sang opera in empty rooms. Today you're joining us as—" Rosa smiled. "Today I am still Rosa. But yes, some things have changed." "That's putting it mildly," Damon laughed. "Your first single reached the top of the classical charts. You just finished a sold-out tour of 5 cities. The New York Symphony has invited you to perform as a special guest this fall, and all this while taking classes at City College. How are you managing it all?" "With help," Rosa said simply. "I could not do any of this alone. My family, my teachers, my new friends." She gave Damon a meaningful look at that last part. "And I still have much to learn." "Your humility remains intact, I see," Damon observed. "But let's talk about the Rosa Diaz Foundation. That was unexpected." Rosa's eyes lit up. This was the part of her new life that meant the most to her. "When good things started happening for me, when the record deal came and the concerts, I knew I wanted to do something important with it," she explained. "I spent so many years cleaning hospital rooms, seeing people in need, and I know what it's like to have a dream but no way to reach it." "So you created a foundation that does what, exactly?" "2 things." Rosa held up her fingers. "First, we provide music education for children whose families cannot afford lessons or instruments. And second, we offer scholarships for older students, people who think they are too old to follow their dreams." The audience applauded enthusiastically. "Because it's never too late," Damon added. "Never," Rosa agreed. "I was 42 when I stood on this stage the first time. I thought my chance had passed years ago. I was wrong." "You've also been working with a rather unexpected partner in all this," Damon said with a grin. "Someone the audience might remember." Rosa laughed. Another change, this easy laughter. "Yes, a certain TV host who once thought it would be funny to make the cleaning lady sing." Damon put his hand over his heart, making a show of looking ashamed. "My finest moment, clearly." "It worked out okay," Rosa said gently. The audience laughed, but there was affection in it. They'd all watched Damon's transformation these past months as Morning Spotlight changed from a show built on gotcha moments and celebrity gossip to one that regularly featured ordinary people with extraordinary stories or talents. "More than okay," Damon acknowledged. "Which brings us to today's announcement. Rosa?" Rosa turned to face the audience directly. "Today, I am proud to announce that Mercy Hospital, where I worked for 15 years, is opening a new music therapy wing for patients. The Rosa Diaz Music Center will provide healing through music for people who are suffering." The audience erupted in applause again. "And," Damon added, "the fundraising concert for this center sold out in less than an hour. Rosa will be performing alongside some of the biggest names in music, all donating their time for this cause." Rosa shook her head in wonder. "Sometimes I still think I will wake up and be back in my old life, mop in hand." "Do you miss it?" Damon asked. "Cleaning?" Rosa considered the question seriously. "I miss the quiet sometimes, the simplicity, and some of the people, my coworkers, the nurses, even some patients I saw regularly." She smiled. "But no, I don't miss the mop." Damon laughed. "Fair enough. Now I understand you've brought someone special with you today?" Rosa nodded, her face glowing with pride. "Yes, my sister Lucia is here." The camera panned to the front, where a beaming 12-year-old girl sat beside Rosa's mother. Lucia waved excitedly. Lucia just got accepted to the Young Musicians Summer Program, Rosa explained. She plays piano. Much better than I ever did. Music runs in the family, Damon observed. Yes, Rosa agreed. My father gave us both his gift. I just took a little longer to unwrap mine. That got a laugh from the audience. Rosa's natural warmth and honesty had made her beloved by fans. She never put on airs, never pretended to be anything other than a woman who had worked hard all her life and was grateful for her second chance. We have a surprise for you today, Rosa, Damon said. Someone else is here. Rosa looked puzzled. Who? From the wings of the stage, a small, elderly man with white hair and a gentle smile walked out. Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. Dr. Mendez, she gasped. The old man came to her, taking her hands in his. My dear Rosa, he said in accented English. Look at you now. Rosa turned to Damon, tears in her eyes. This is my father's teacher from our country. I haven't seen him since I was 14 years old. Dr. Mendez patted her hand. I always told your father that your voice was special, a once-in-a-generation gift. He believed it too. We flew Dr. Mendez in for your concert tomorrow, Damon explained. He'll be sitting front row. Rosa was openly crying now, but they were happy tears. Thank you, she whispered to Damon. This means everything. Damon, never good with emotional moments despite his recent growth, cleared his throat. Well, I think our audience is hoping to hear that amazing voice of yours. Would you do us the honor? Rosa nodded, wiping her tears. Yes, of course. As she moved to the center of the stage, Dr. Mendez and Damon stepped back. The lights dimmed except for a single spotlight on Rosa. The backing track began, the same aria she had sung 6 months ago, O mio babino caro, but this time, Rosa didn't sing alone. As her voice rose, filling the studio with its pure, powerful sound, she was joined by a children's choir, 20 young students from her foundation's first music program. Their sweet voices blended with hers, creating something magical, a bridge between generations. From the side of the stage, Damon watched with genuine awe. He'd interviewed presidents and movie stars, but none had affected him like this woman with her simple grace and extraordinary gift. Rosa had taught him to look deeper, to see the humanity in everyone, even in himself. His show now featured regular people with remarkable stories or talents, celebrating the extraordinary in ordinary lives. When the song ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the studio. The audience rose in a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever. Rosa stood in the center of the children, her arms around the shoulders of the ones closest to her, her face radiant with joy. Later, after the show, Damon found Rosa in her dressing room. She was sitting quietly, looking at an old photograph of her father. He would be so proud, Damon said softly from the doorway. Rosa looked up with a smile. Yes, not just of the singing, but of the foundation, of helping others find their voices too. You've come a long way from that first day. Rosa nodded. We both have. Damon couldn't argue with that. The man who had once seen Rosa as nothing but a punchline for his show had been forever changed by her dignity, her talent, and her heart. Ready for tomorrow's concert? He asked. Almost, Rosa said, standing up and carefully tucking her father's photo into her purse. There's just one more thing I need to do first. What's that? I want to visit the hospital, my old floor, to see my friends there and tell them about the new music center. Damon smiled. Need a ride? Rosa nodded, her eyes bright with purpose. Yes. There's still so much to do, so many people to help. She looked at Damon with quiet certainty. This is just the beginning. As they walked out together, Rosa thought about the journey that had brought her here. From invisible to seen, from silent to heard, from a woman who cleaned floors to a woman who built foundations, all because someone had recorded her singing in an empty room, thinking it would be funny to expose her. All because a host had tried to mock her, only to be silenced by her gift. All because, after 23 years of putting her dreams aside, Rosa had finally allowed herself to shine. Some people called it luck, others called it fate. Rosa simply called it life, unexpected, challenging, and in the end, more beautiful than she ever could have imagined.